In today's video, we'll take a look at AK's new revised edition of the new modeling book, Condemnation. Well, it's been a while since my last video, and to be honest, this video was supposed to be part 2 of my Popeye video. Sorry if you were expecting that, and I apologize in advance. But this book showed up a couple days ago, and I promised AK I would do this review and get it out. Not to worry though, Popeye is almost complete, and it'll be the next video I put out. First off, I'd like to thank Rick Lawler for supplying me with this sample review. When Rick asked if I'd be interested, my initial reaction was a little hesitant. I'd seen from the ad campaign the negative reaction it was getting from the modeling community. And to be honest, I was put off just as many of you were. Rick told me that AK had realized their mistake and were going to revise the book. So I thought, everybody makes mistakes and everybody deserves a second chance. So let's all take a look at the book together now and we'll draw our own conclusions. I'd also like to disclose that I have no affiliation with AK whatsoever. This will be an honest assessment and my own personal thoughts and opinions. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, I'm going to break this review down into 3 segments. Quality of construction of the book, the modeling quality, and some of the controversial subject matter inside the book. As far as quality goes, it's AK's typical high standard. As far as materials go, it's soft cover. The book measures 8 1/4 inches in width by 11 3/4 inches in height. It's a soft cover book, 167 pages in full color, high resolution photos. It has excellent, easy to follow, step-by-step illustrations. And the finish on the paper is luster sheen. Alright, let's take a look at modeling quality and content. Alright, the table of contents tells us that we have 8 dioramas in this book, all dealing with different subject matter, as you can see. I'll skip the photographic elements for now and we'll just go straight to the modeling end of it. And as you can see, the first diorama here is by Rick Lawler and it's called Burden of Sorrow. It goes through all the construction of the train car here, weathering of the train car, construction of the figure and the diorama elements and how to weather those, different materials used to create the scene as far as product goes, and then some photos of the finished piece. And the next diorama is called Yesterday in Vietnam. It deals with the Vietnam War. It goes through all the construction of the building. And it's quite in depth, so anyone that's interested in learning how to make their own building from scratch, there's a lot of good information here. And all the painting process, how to get all the weathering correct and colors correct if you're doing a Vietnam building setting. And I'm just going through these photos fairly quickly. We're not going to linger on anything too long. I just want you to get an idea of actually what is in the book, and you know, it is a revised edition. Like I said earlier, there are some things that were taken out of it. To me, it seems just like any regular modeling book as far as content goes on construction and weathering. We're just dealing with more controversial subject matter. Alright, the next diorama is called The War of Water. And again, it goes through all the construction of the diorama and all its elements. This one's good. It's got some images on how to make plants from paper. And this is Ruben Gonzalez is the diorama builder on this particular piece. And he's featured a few times in this book. There's some good reference here on how to make a vehicle look rusty and abandoned. I found this one particularly interesting. He shows how to make glass look broken by adding these ice sparkles that are a diorama element. If you paint them over the glass, it creates sort of this shattered look. I thought that was a nice bit of information. I've always wondered how to make glass look shattered like that, especially glass pieces generally being plastic in model kits. That's a good tip. And then the final scene. The next diorama in the book is called Some Kind of Monster. The final scene there. And then going through all the different elements on creating this particular diorama and scene. Another good illustrative example on how to create plants from pre-existing commercially available manufacturers. And then how the figures were created for the diorama. And then the final scene. And the reason we're going through this entire book, I just want everyone to see exactly what is in this book. I haven't seen the original book, but from what I understand, this is revised. Some of the content from the previous book has been taken out. I just wanted everybody to be able to see exactly the content of this book, and then you can make your own decisions from there. The next piece is called RLC. One thing I didn't know about this particular diorama is the RLC, or RLC, if I'm saying that correctly, it was the 4th biggest lake in the world, and the Russians drained it totally and created quite an environmental disaster by doing that. And as you can see from this photograph here, it shows the timeline from 1977 to 2013 exactly how that lake was drained. So it's big. It's as big as Ireland apparently. And I had no idea, or I hadn't read about this before, so I found that quite interesting. So anyway, it involves a scratch-built boat and a photographer taking a photograph of this particular boat stranded in the middle of what is now desert, which used to be sea. Alright, so it goes through building of the ship from the CAD. Was computer designed, as you can see, and then it was built from scratch, which I found quite impressive. So if you're looking to build a ship from scratch, well, this might be the book for you. And then goes through all the painting. I found this quite interesting too. It goes through all different types of ways of creating rust effects, and it goes into it quite extensively. I thought that was a very useful part of this book, particularly for me, because I'm always looking for a good reference on how to create rusty items. And then it goes through all the groundwork, how to create the dry seabed, and going through the final diorama. And then the next piece is called Cellmates, and it is a diorama. Well, I would call it more of a vignette because it's just a single figure, but it goes through the painting process of the figure. Quite impressive as far as paintwork goes. And then the construction of the cell itself. I don't know, I wouldn't want to sit on that toilet, so he's really given it that grimy, grubby feel. You really get a sense of the situation being desperate, I think, by looking at this scene. And the last one is called Blue Hell, and you can see the final diorama here. And I really enjoyed this article too, because it had a lot of great ideas on how to create water depth. Well, it also has a scratch-built boat here, showing you how to create mosses on stones that are close to water, and then all the chipping techniques used to create the final look of the boat. It goes through quite an extensive process on how to create this weathered look to an old wood boat, which I found very interesting. And then here's the section on how to create depth in water, which I found extremely useful for me because I've always wondered how that's done as well, and this gives a really good breakdown of how to do that. He's using a product here, he just calls it fiber, but I know you can get this at places that sell bedding or like Michael's. It's the stuffing that goes inside pillows or that kind of thing, and it's really useful for creating texture in these wakes here, or in the waves. The fiber helps to hold the shape of these waves and wakes here, from what I can tell from reading through the book. So I found that quite interesting as well. And then he just goes through how to show all the layers of water in the final production of waves on that particular piece. And the final piece in the book is called World of Rubbish. He goes through how to create trash bags out of doggy poop bags, actually, and I found this quite interesting. You could use this for multiple applications, possibly equipment on vehicles or that kind of thing. And then he just goes through everything, adding the debris and the grubbiness and tearing the bags and how to add the content to the inside of the bags to make them look full. And then this is the final full picture of the diorama. And that is it for modeling quality and content. So we'll look at controversy next. Okay, the controversy part of this book. This will be probably the hardest part for me to talk about, and obviously the most controversial part of the book. Many of you have said on Facebook and what have you, different social medias, that you were very angry with this book and you didn't like the content and the fact that they were using atrocities and the Holocaust to try and sell their products. Well, I'm hoping to dispel that myth because I have read the book a couple times now, and I don't see anywhere in here that talks about anything to do with promoting Nazism or fascism or anything to do with genocide or things like that. If anything, it's promoting people to be more aware of the past and learning from the past and hopefully avoiding these same situations and never having them occur again. Although we know they still occur and are occurring around the world. But hopefully with education, we'll be able to overcome these situations and there'll be less and less of it until it's totally eradicated. So what we see before we even open the book is when modeling becomes art and art is social commentary. This book contains art pieces to make us think modeling will be considered one day an expression of art and social condemnation. So what AK is doing here in the name Condemnation is actually condemning the perpetrators of genocide and other war crimes or any kind of crimes against humanity or the earth by depicting them in dioramas. And I do consider model making to a certain extent art, as we're using the same materials as a traditional artist would to depict situations or pieces of history, and there are a lot of great modelers out there that can do that, and I would consider their work worthy enough to go into museums. There is an introduction here, and it's basically going through why AK did this book, the reason they did this book. Hopefully they're not stepping on too many toes by doing this book, although they know how they have made that mistake by their, in my opinion as well, very bad ad campaign to start the book off. That should have been something they looked at very carefully when touching on a book or subject matter that's this sensitive. So unfortunately AK did make that big mistake, and let's see, hopefully they'll redeem themselves by this revamp of the book and by excluding some of the original content they did have in the book. Here we see concentration camp images. It's all things we've seen before in books, magazines, movies. It's nothing new to us. They're always hard to look at because this did really happen to people and they did suffer. But I think what AK is trying to show here is the extent of it, and that it was a horrible crime against humanity and that it should never happen again. You know, again, it's the diorama. It just basically shows that sorrow and that burdening of the man pushing the wheelbarrow away from the train. You know, it is a bunch of people that have had to drop their possessions. You know where they're going just by the fact that there's a man standing here pushing the cart with the striped pajamas with the Jewish symbol on his shirt. So it's just, it's a very sad image, and it really makes you think how hard it must have been for those people in that situation. Again, images we've all seen dozens and hundreds of times, nothing that we haven't seen before. Again, nothing in here is pro-genocide. It's just showing the facts. and it's just a precursor to the diorama itself. And then the next images we see in the book are of children trying to get water in bad situations with poisoned or polluted water, but that's all they have to drink. We have all seen this on TV and on the news, and we know it is a situation that's happening around the world. And again, it's just reinforcing the diorama that follows, just showing the fact that people are having issues with getting clean water around the world. And then, of course, the next one, probably the hardest one to look at for me, is the Rwanda genocide images. I have seen these before, or some of them, and they're always hard to look at, of course. We know what happened to those people in Rwanda that lost their lives. Thousands upon thousands that died in that Rwandan genocide. And again, by hopefully seeing these images, it will reinforce to people that this can never happen again, and we have to find ways of avoiding these situations at all costs. But by burying the past, again, you're only making it easy for these people to come out again and create these war crimes, because people will think, well, no one cares, we'll just keep doing it, because people keep sweeping it under the carpet. I think we have to show that we care by showing people these tragedies and learning from them. And then the next one, it's probably the most subtle out of any of the photographs that are in this book, although still a bad situation, the draining of oceans and polluting of oceans. And this is a very powerful image showing ships out in the middle of a desert. When do you ever see ships in the middle of a desert, other than obviously something bad has happened, where they're sitting on the bottom of a sandy desert where there once used to be lots of water. Again, a very powerful image leading up to the diorama that goes with it again. And here we have the section on drug addiction and the images that go along with drug addiction. It's a very sad situation that we find a lot of people in. It's a situation that a lot of them never are able to break. It's an awful thing, and we need to try and eradicate that as well, and possibly have places where these people can find the help they need and get off these drugs that hold them hostage for the rest of their lives. The images are hard, of course, but they certainly make you think, and they are provocative and speak volumes for sure. The next images, the broken dream of a better life. People that come from other countries that try to make it across the ocean in ill-equipped and poor boats that end up sinking most of the time, taking the lives of a lot or all of the people that are aboard. And of course they are trying to escape oppression or genocide or famine. Images like this of a young child washed up on a beach. These are all hard things to look at, but again, things that need to be taken seriously and hopefully one day eradicated as well. And then the final image in the book, Life in a Trash Bag. Again, super hard images to look at when you're looking at children in dire situations like this. What else can you say? It just breaks your heart to see kids of the age that are of your own children. You can't imagine your own 5 or 6 year old child fending for themselves, digging through garbage. I mean, it's horrid. And hopefully one day it'll be eradicated as well. Of course, these images set up the final diorama. So that is the controversial nature of the book. At the end of the book here, AK says that they share part of the benefits of this book with Itio Vita, and it looks like they do a lot of relief fund and helping people around the world in these situations. And you can also donate by going to this website if you feel the need to do that. So that's good to see that AK has not only changed the book, but they are actually giving some of the proceeds of this book to a good organization. And on the very back of the book here it says Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with the reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So there you have it, my review of the AK Condemnation book. Not an easy subject for anyone to tackle, especially when there's been so much controversy about it and backlash. Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. I had reservations, but I'm glad I did it. And hopefully it will shed light to all those out there that think that the book is pro-Nazi or all about promoting genocide. It is not. And I hope you can tell from my review that everything in the book, I showed you all the pages of the book. There's nothing in there that is, like I said, pro-Nazi or wanting to promote hatred towards others. In my mind, it's no different than taking photographs of those images. It's the same type of art. We're just doing it in 3 dimensions and in miniature. Okay, that is all I have to say about that. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. If you did, you know what to do. Go down below, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you are notified every time I upload a video. Take care. Hopefully you're all safe and well. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.